Hey everyone, Mr. Sugiano here, your source for gaming, tech, emulation, and open source news, and sometimes reviews. In this video, we're taking a look at the OneXSugar Sugar 1 handheld, this crazy transforming handheld. Let's get started. Alright, to kick things off, yes, still camping, yes, another gorgeous day outside, and yes, we're doing a nice review. Now, OneXSugar sent me the Sugar 1 for a fair and honest review, and that's exactly what we're going to do here, but there is one caveat. And that caveat is that this is a prototype unit, so this unit may not reflect what is actually put on sale. So with that being said, let's go on ahead and unbox this and take a look at it and see what it can do. And the box here is kind of nice. I'm pretty sure this is aluminum, but it does come in a nice aluminum box. And here is the Sugar 1 in all of its glory. And yes, this is the crazy transforming handheld you've probably seen on the internet. Now, before I get into the meat and potatoes of this review, let's just take a look at this device as a device without booting it on or anything. And this is what I mean. This is probably the most wild device that I've ever tested out. I mean, in terms of versatility, I just think they said yes. In terms of design, I think the engineers just said yes to basically anything here. I mean, this thing can be used in a bunch of different ways and for a bunch of different things. It's so weird. Now, I will say, this doesn't feel good. I'll tell you that right off the bat. Just holding it like this, I'd be really worried about breaking these things. I will say that since this is a prototype, and I think it says it right on the back here, prototype. Since this is a prototype, the screws in here are plastic, and they have advised me that the final screws will be metal. And I would say the metal screws would be a lot better than these plastic ones because I would be worried about breaking this thing. In terms of durability, I cannot test that because this is not a production unit. However, and this is a big however, I do like how everything snaps together with the magnets, and the magnets are pretty darn strong. So I wouldn't really be worried about wearing it out in terms of clamping it together and flipping it around, and that's very good. The biggest thing I'm worried about in terms of durability for this whole device are these hinges right here. And again, they're plastic screws, not metal screws, but I'm assuming that the metal screws will make this considerably more durable. I'm also worried about the housing. So if the housing isn't upgraded with the screws, then that may pose a problem and you may want to be careful with it. But when it is magneted into place here, held into place, it's pretty stable. Not the most stable, but pretty darn stable, and I wouldn't really worry about breaking it if you're not flipping it around all the time. Now again here, and I really want to stress this, the unit is a prototype, and I'm pretty sure every single review that's been posted online so far has been a prototype. So I don't necessarily think that this should be used for a de facto review for this product. But they do say here that the software, the firmware on this is going to continue to be optimized. The software launcher is going to continue to be optimized. The hardware is going to be continued to be refined and optimized. And the packaging even the tin that this came in, is going to be further refined and optimized and improved. So overall here, what you're seeing is a very early sample, a potential of what this device could be. So here is a closer up look at the device. There is a D-pad on the right hand side, but there's also a D-pad on the left hand side if you want there to be. This is just a little magnetic D-pad. We've got a couple of joysticks here offset. And if you want the D-pad to be on the top and the joystick to be on the bottom, that's a pretty easy swap. All you have to do is just quite literally flip it around. So here's a closer look at the D-pad, I guess, or buttons and joystick on the left hand side, or maybe right hand side depending on how you're using this. There's a couple of buttons at the bottom here too. And here are the buttons on the opposite side, which kind of mirror the buttons on the left or right hand side. I'm getting really confused as to which side is which, considering you could easily flip this around and you got buttons on the other side now. Here's a better look at the back of the controller, and you can see they went with some interesting design choices overall. I'm not necessarily certain if this will be the design of the final version or not. But I will say here, depending on the configuration, it's pretty easy to lose sight of things if your controllers are flipped over them. For example, the power and the volume rocker is on the right or left hand side, or maybe on the bottom. I guess depending on how you're holding this. But you could easily cover that and not realize it, and then try to figure out where these buttons are by fiddling around with this thing. So on one of the sides we don't have a whole lot, but on the other side we've got our power and volume rocker. Now on the top of the controllers, again, which could be easily covered depending on how you're using this device, there are L1 and L2 buttons, R1 and R2, as well as an interesting little square button here on the top of both sides of the controllers. In terms of power, the USB-C is on the bottom, or maybe on the top, I guess, depending on how you're using this. It's on the bottom or top, and it is USB-C. I'd expect no different on a handheld device like this. If it wasn't USB-C, I'd be seriously questioning it. So first and foremost, I can see the LEDs light up. I think the camera's doing a good job capturing it. It's a nice orange. So orange and black, I guess, is the default theme here. And I'm assuming as well that this is going to continue to be optimized. I'm noticing the date and time are completely wrong, and that's absolutely fine. Now again, it's worth mentioning this is all prototype software, so this will probably not look at all like this once it's fully released. I'm noticing that this bottom screen here, the larger one at least, because it could be the top one, I guess, if we used it this way. The larger screen is the main Android screen. So if you're looking for controls or anything like that, this bottom screen here, the top screen or whatever, doesn't really function as the main screen, and I don't think it can, even if you flip it around. Even if I were to try to use it this way, I think that just turns the screen off. So if you are trying to use a screen here, this big one is the way to go. So taking a look at the About section, and I noticed that this device is running Android 14. In terms of memory, this device is equipped with 16 gigs of RAM and 512 gigs of storage. One of the biggest things I like about this device is what's powering it. It's a Snapdragon G3 Gen 3. They are not messing around. Now in terms of the screens, they are both OLEDs. The top one is a 3.92-inch OLED at 1240 by 1080. The aspect ratio is 8:7. The main display on this one is 6.01-inch OLED, resolution of 1080 by 2160 with an aspect ratio of 18:9. The battery on this one is 5600 milliamp hours. It's got 2 fans for cooling. The joysticks on this one are Hall effect joysticks. It's got tactile micro switch buttons and dual vibration motors. The Bluetooth on this is 5.3 and it does support Wi-Fi 7. Now in terms of customization here, there's an interesting app called Sugar Console, and if I click that, it does bring up this here, which lets me know the RAM usage, also the screen brightness and the CPU temperature. Right now it's sitting at 47 degrees Celsius, which I think is absolutely fair considering I'm outside and it's close to 30 degrees Celsius outside right now. And you can also configure the displays here as well as the lights. And that's kind of what I want to take a look at. So by default it is orange, but let's turn it over to mint. That looks a lot prettier in my opinion. There's also rainbow here, and juice, and devil, and lollipop. I'm a big fan of mint. If you're a big fan of blue and green, or even something like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom theme, well, here you go. Now lighting situation aside, and I'll just keep it the way it is here because I really like the blue and green. If we take a look at the other options, so performance, we can mess around with the fan if we want, put it in battery saving or balanced. By default it is balanced. And we can also configure the gamepad in here. So in terms of configuration, yes is the answer. Now on top of all of that, there is a bypass button. It's not in focus here on the camera, give me a second. There we go. So the bypass button, if I click on that, bypass power, and we can actually scale that down if we wanted to, which is crazy. Like the amount of customizability here, the amount of options we have, this is really, really nice. Now there is something here I want to point out. Remember how I said this main screen was the main display? Well, we can change that if we want. There is a switch button here that I can press, and that turns the smaller screen here into the main display if I'd like. Is this ideal? No, not at all, but I mean, it can be done. I think I accidentally turned the brightness down. So anyways, here there is that option if you're looking for it, and I think it's a great option. So testing out some gameplay on this, I want to say there's a bunch of different ways that we can utilize this device, and I'm not going to go over every single way because we'd be here for quite a while. But just taking a look at this instance, for example, here, and we can have 2 different things, 2 completely different things running at the exact same time. So for those of you who like to run Subway Surfers or something in the background while you're watching something completely different, you absolutely can. If you wanted to have a YouTube video up and playing while you're doing something else, you absolutely can here. And I think that is a very positive aspect of this device. Or if you're a very skilled gamer and like to play multiple games at the same time, I don't know many people who do, but I mean, if you do, you absolutely can here. I mean, I've got Super Street Fighter 4 up and running on the bottom, and we can see it's at a calm, cool, collected 30 frames per second. Using the joysticks, it's controlling the bottom. All I have to do is touch the top screen here, and now I'm controlling Nintendo DS. And again, no frame issues and no issues whatsoever. The continuity is really, really smooth. I'm a huge fan of this so far. I mean, just playing here, even like this, I mean, maybe if you're playing, I don't know, Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons or something like that, you can do both at the exact same time and have a fun playthrough. The device itself is also pretty intuitive depending on how you're trying to play this thing. I mean, you can change it around and it should maintain everything. I'm going to keep both games up and running here just to show the difference when you flip this thing around, or if you're to close the back screen. And well, there we go. Now, in terms of overall comfort, I would say this device is, well, I guess it depends on how you're using it. The weight of this will change based on if the screens are pulled out or not, and based on how you're holding it in the positions of the controllers. I will say, based on this position here, the controller edges rub just a little bit. I wouldn't mind if they were just a little bit smoother here. And on the back of the device, my fingers are hitting all of the goodies back here, so it's not necessarily the most comfortable to use in this position. Now, using the device this way, I would say is super comfortable, but not recommended at all. I'd be worried about breaking the joysticks really easily. There's no magnets holding it in place here, and it'd be really easy playing this and accidentally snapping one of these things off, unless maybe it's got metal screws and the casing is upgraded a little bit. But based on this prototype unit, although this is comfortable, I wouldn't recommend this at all. Honestly, in terms of the best way to use this device, I would say probably just like this. I think with the larger screen on the top, the smaller screen on the bottom, and the controllers tucked in on the side here, kind of resembling a Nintendo DS. This to me is the most comfortable way to use it. I wouldn't say it's the most comfortable handheld out there at all, but at the same time here, this to me is a decent weight balance. Now, on a side note here, there is something that I forgot to point out when I was taking a look at the overall design, and that's because the controllers were covering it. But if I flip the controllers down, on this side there is a wheel here which will adjust the volume. I can turn the volume up or down. And on the other side, we've got a micro SD card slot, and you can see the LED effects. Well, you can kind of see it on camera there, but the LED effects do shine through the controllers on the left and right hand side. Now, I'm assuming there are some people going to be wondering about this D-pad, and I would say it's kind of a take it or leave it. I'm kind of indifferent to it. I'd rather not use it. But it is indented a little bit here to help out with thumb rolls. But if you're used to using a Switch Joy-Con, you'll be right at home here with just the standard buttons. You can use the D-pad though, and well, here's a perfect game to be testing it out. It's okay. I would say it's not necessarily ideal by any stretch of the imagination, and it does take a little bit to get used to. But you can use it, and I guess it does work. I would point out here though, if you're looking to play a game somewhat seriously, just use the joysticks. The joysticks are Hall effect joysticks. I find them actually to be pretty good. And I have no issue whatsoever with them. I think using the joysticks is absolutely fine and probably preferable to the individual buttons for the D-pad here, or this magnetic thing. Now, for those wondering, this device is currently priced at $600 US. So let's get into my likes, my dislikes, and whether or not I'd recommend it just based on this prototype unit. So we'll start out here with my likes. First and foremost, I love the versatility of this. If you're a Nintendo DS or 3DS fan and like to do multiple things at the exact same time, well, this device may be up your alley. Now, in terms of storage on this, I'm pretty happy with 512 gigs of internal storage and also the micro SD card slot for even more storage. 16 gigs of RAM I think is absolutely acceptable. The chip powering this, the Snapdragon G3 Gen 3, is no slouch. I mean, using two emulators at the exact same time, I had no frame drops. Everything was really smooth, and I wasn't killing the battery. I went from 68% to 55% in, I don't know, like an hour's worth of testing here using both emulators, which I found very impressive overall. I would say that this is a very good device for emulation. I would say that this is a very good device for general gaming. And again, if you like to do multiple things at the exact same time, this device can really handle it. And the last thing here that I like is the portability. I mean, you can fold this thing up pretty darn good, and at the end of the day, I would say this is far more portable than when everything is folded out. So that is a plus. And now getting into my dislikes, I would say that comfort here is, I would say it's not the best in terms of overall handhelds that I've used. It will vary from person to person. I didn't find this one overly comfortable to use. Durability is also something I wish I could test out with this device, but I can't because this is not the end product. This is a prototype, and they're using plastic screws as opposed to metal ones. But overall durability would be questionable on this one. But I would say if they did upgrade the screws here and possibly the housing just to make sure the hinges didn't snap, I would say durability is probably a lot better than a lot of people would think. I would say it's probably a lot better than people would probably give it credit for. But if you are noticing, I am saying probably, and that's because this is a prototype unit. I'm unable to test the final version of it. And based on the prototype alone, I am concerned about the durability here. The pivot points, the hinges here, I'd be really worried about accidentally breaking. The screens I've got no concern about whatsoever. It's just these controllers flipping them around, and these hinges are my biggest concern. I think that is probably going to be the biggest failure point. And the last thing here that I don't necessarily love and probably doesn't need to be included and maybe save a couple of bucks on the device overall is this D-pad. I think they could have done away with this. I think it's a novelty item and probably not really needed. I don't know if many people would use it. And I think more people would lose it than actually use it. So overall here at a price of $600 US, would I recommend the OneXSugar Sugar 1? And the answer here is it depends. It depends what you're looking for. I mean, this is definitely a unique device. At 600 bucks, it's got a lot of very tough competition. But if you are looking for a device that offers everything you see here, well, maybe this device will be up your alley, maybe it won't. I would say it's a very unique device with some very unique design elements. Again, I think the engineers just said yes to basically everything. And maybe this is your dream device, maybe it's not. I can say it's very powerful, very capable. The screens are good. The form factor is, I think that's going to be the divisive point here. I don't know who's going to not want it. I don't know who's going to want it. But I will say here, this is a really cool device, and I like the innovation here. I like the ingenuity. And I like that the engineers basically said yes to everything. I mean, we don't see this very often at all, not in this space. There's a lot of, I would say, boring designs out there and a lot of repeated and minorly adjusted designs. And this thing is completely off the wall and completely different. And that is really cool in my book. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and no fluff. Shoutouts to OneXSugar for providing this Sugar 1 for a fair and honest review, the Sugar 1 prototype. If you wanted to see a couple other reviews, I'll leave a couple links in the description below for you to check out. Retro Game Core and Tech Dweeb also reviewed this thing. Let me know your thoughts about the Sugar 1 in the comments below. If you liked this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button, check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate, save your state.